Problem 22-38, we're now going to work on the manufacturing overhead budget. And in the previous videos, I think I failed to mention that we have these links. So to see the production budget, we could just scroll up here. And here's the production budget. Or, however, you have the links on the homework problems, but not the tests. You have these links to pop up the production budget so you don't have to scroll. Same thing with a direct labor budget. However, on the test, if this problem is on the test, they're not going to give you these links because they would be giving you links to the solution. So before we do this section of the budget, let's review what we're working on. Right now we're working on the manufacturing overhead budget. Again, these are costs of making the product that are not direct materials and they are not direct labor. It could include things like indirect materials, but for this problem they said indirect materials were insignificant. So this company does not budget for indirect materials. But they could be costs related to manufacturing the product, such as electricity for the factory, insurance for the factory, depreciation for the factory, and machines in the factory, and other things like property taxes for the factory, etc. So now let's get started on the manufacturing overhead budget. So the first thing we need to know is how many bats are we budgeted to produce? And we get those from the production budget. But if this is a test, you're going to have to scroll up here to the production budget. And here we go. Make sure you grab the bottom line, 1250, 1950, and 3200. But since this is just the homework, we can just click it here and grab the numbers from here. 1250, copy and paste, 1950, I love copy and paste, 3200. So the next thing we need to calculate is variable overhead cost per bat. Now some overhead costs are variable, meaning the more bats you produce, the more overhead there is. This could be like the electricity for the machines that that manufacture the bats. The more bats you make, the longer the machines are used and the more electricity they use. Therefore, it's a variable overhead cost. So let's see in our more info box if we can find the variable overhead information. Variable manufacturing overhead is 30 cents per bat. So we need to copy 30 cents here. 0.30, 0.30, 0.30. So to get the budgeted VOH, remember VOH stands for variable overhead, we're going to take 1250 youth bats times 30 cents. $12.50 times 0.3 equals $375. Then we take 1950 times 0.3, 1950 times 0.3 gives us $585. And double check our math, 3200 times the 0.3 gives us 960. Oh, what am I doing? There we go. So we can also double check your math. 375 plus 585 should also equal 970 or 960. 375 plus 585 equals 960. So that works out. So we now have our budget for our variable overhead costs. However, there are some overhead costs that are fixed. For example, fixed manufacturing overhead includes $1,300 per quarter in depreciation. So they must do straight line depreciation, meaning it's going to be the same all the time. And it does not matter how much they use the equipment. So if they produce 0 bats, they would have this fixed amount of depreciation no matter what. So the depreciation is going to be $1,300. And they also have $20,140 per quarter for other fixed, right here it says fixed manufacturing overhead costs, such as insurance and property taxes. So even if they don't make any bats, they still have to pay their property taxes and their insurance. So these costs are fixed. And that is $20,000. In fact, I think I can just copy this. Copy and paste that. And so the total budgeted fixed overhead is $1,300 plus $20,000. That gives us $21,000, comma, 440. That's not a comma. Commas are going to kill me. So next we need our total budgeted manufacturing overhead costs. So that means we're going to take our budgeted variable overhead, $960, plus the total budgeted fixed overhead, FOH, remember, stands for fixed overhead. So we got $960 here, plus $21,440, gives us $22,400 of manufacturing costs. Manufacturing overhead costs, I should say. So now remember, with these $22,400 of budgeted manufacturing overhead costs, we need to calculate the predetermined overhead allocation rate, so later we can figure out how much to allocate to each bat. So to calculate the predetermined overhead allocation rate, we have to calculate the total direct labor hours. So the direct labor hours come from the direct labor budget. We can click here to see it. Again, on the test, you would have to scroll up to see it. So the direct labor hours needed for production are on this row. So we have 875 hours for the youth bats. Copy and paste. We have 1,365 hours for the adult bats. Copy and paste. And for a total of 2,240 hours. And if this is on the test, this would be closed, so you'd have to scroll up. Let's see if I can get them both to fit in the same window. Almost. Right here, 875 would go here. 1,365 would go here. There, now we can see better. So 875 would go here. 1,365 goes here. 2,240 goes here, because this is the direct labor budget right up above. So next we need to bring down the budgeted manufacturing overhead costs, which notice is the same as this line. So I'm going to copy and paste the $22,400 of budgeted manufacturing overhead costs. So to calculate the predetermined overhead allocation rate, I've got the breakdown of how we do it here. We take the $22,400 of budgeted manufacturing overhead costs, and of course this came from up here, and we divide by the direct labor hours. That should be an S. So $22,400 of budgeted manufacturing overhead divided by 2,240 direct labor hours gives us $10 of overhead per 1 hour of direct labor. So I'm going to plug in this $10 here into this box. And notice up here it says enter any per unit amounts to 2 decimal places. So this is a dollar amount, $10 per hour. In the next video, we will prepare Langley's cost of goods sold budget.